All right, get ready because today we're diving into the future of gardens. And let me tell you, based on what I've seen, it's going to be incredible. The articles you sent over are bursting with ideas about landscaping and gardening trends for 2025. We're talking sustainability becoming the norm, tech that seems straight out of sci-fi, and gardens designed to give you pure relaxation. I'm ready to dig in, are you?
Definitely. What I find super interesting is how all these trends connect. It really shows a shift towards mindful, eco-conscious living. We're not just focused on looks anymore, it's about creating spaces that work with nature and honestly make us feel better.
Totally. And honestly, the first thing that pops out from these articles is just how much emphasis there is on sustainability. It's everywhere. It's like
Yeah.
going green in your garden isn't some special thing anymore. It's just what people expect.
Yeah, you're right. Consumers are really aware of things like climate change and running out of resources these days, and they want their choices to show what they believe in. You can see this in how much demand there is for sustainable ways of landscaping.
Like that article about xeriscaping, where you design landscapes that can handle really dry conditions. Imagine barely needing to water your lawn, even in places where it's usually super dry. That's a game changer, especially with everyone talking about saving water these days.
It is, and xeriscaping is about more than just looks. It's a direct response to the fact that we're facing water shortages. And it goes hand in hand with another big trend, using plants that are native to the area. These plants are already used to the local climate, so they need less water, less fuss. Plus, they attract good insects like pollinators and help support the variety of life in your area.
Makes total sense, right? Working with nature, not trying to force it to do something else. But you know what really caught my eye? This whole regenerative landscaping thing. It's like not just trying to do less harm, but actually helping the environment heal.
Exactly. Regenerative landscaping takes a broader approach. It's about fixing the soil, trapping carbon, and making sure there's a diverse range of life in the garden. It's all about having a garden that actually gives back to nature more than it takes.
That's some next level gardening right there. And speaking of next level, can we just talk about all the tech in these articles? Robotic lawnmowers, AI designing my garden. I thought I was reading about landscaping, not watching a sci-fi movie.
It is pretty amazing how tech is finding its way into every part of our lives, even our gardens. But these advancements are actually addressing real issues, like how to use water more efficiently and make lawn care more sustainable.
Yeah, like those smart irrigation systems you mentioned. It's not just a fancy sprinkler system, right? Tell me more about how they work.
Oh, they're way more advanced than your average sprinkler. These systems use sensors to keep track of how damp the soil is, the temperature, even the weather forecast, all in real time. And they use that info to give each plant exactly the right amount of water. No waste and happy plants.
So no more guessing games or accidentally drowning my plants. I'm into it. Robots cutting the grass, though? That just feels like we're letting tech take over too much.
It might sound like something from the future, but robotic lawnmowers are getting more and more popular, and with good reason. They're quiet, they cut the grass really well, and they're better for the environment compared to those gas-powered mowers.
Okay, you've got my attention there. But AI designing gardens, what does that even look like? Do I just tell an app what I want and it magically creates a whole garden plan for me?
It's actually a bit more complex than that. You can definitely put in your preferences, but these AI design tools use algorithms. They consider all sorts of factors like your garden's specific climate, soil type, even the types of plants that grow well in your area. It's like having your own personal garden designer right on your phone.
I can get behind that. That would definitely make those tough decisions about what to plant where so much easier.
Hmm.
But it's not all about fancy gadgets and futuristic landscapes, is it? These articles also talk a lot about creating gardens that are, well, good for the soul. Feels like a nice change of pace from all the tech we've been talking about.
For sure. People are craving that connection with nature, especially with how demanding and tech-driven our lives are these days. Therapeutic gardens, the ones designed specifically for relaxation and well-being, are becoming super popular again.
And some of the examples in these articles sound incredible, like those gardens that include calming water features. I could totally see myself escaping to my backyard and finding some peace by a little fountain. It's like bringing the spa experience home.
Exactly. The sound of water, especially that gentle trickling, can be so calming. And it's not just about what you hear. Adding in plants that smell amazing, like lavender or chamomile, can make you feel even more peaceful.
So it's about creating a whole experience for your senses, not just focusing on what the garden looks like.
I love that. And speaking of engaging the senses, what about those edible landscapes? Getting to have beauty and fresh food all in one? Count me in.
Edible landscapes are such a cool way to feel more connected to your food. You get to enjoy fresh, homegrown produce, plus you have a sustainable and stunning garden. Okay, but let's be real for a second. I love this idea of having a gorgeous, sustainable garden that practically takes care of itself. But between work, life, and everything else, who actually has time for all the upkeep a garden needs? Even if it is supposed to be relaxing, it still takes work.
I hear that. It's something I think about a lot too. And that's why so many of these new trends are about making gardens easier to handle. It's not just about being good to the planet, it's about gardening in a way that fits into our busy lives.
Exactly. And it feels like these articles are packed with smart ways to make gardens simpler to take care of.
Mm,
One that caught my eye was that whole climate adaptive landscaping thing. Like, it's not just about making things look pretty anymore. It's about making sure our gardens can handle whatever crazy weather comes our way.
right. Climate change is something we got to think about, and gardens are right there on the front lines. The articles you shared have some really cool solutions, like how to manage stormwater in a better way. Those ideas are practical, but they can also make a landscape look amazing.
Yeah, those rain gardens really stood out to me. They sound so much nicer than just having a ditch to catch rainwater.
Oh, they're totally different. Rain gardens are designed to work like nature does, soaking up water. They're usually planted with a mix of different native plants that don't mind being wet or dry. So when there's a huge downpour, the rain garden collects all that water and lets it soak slowly back into the ground. That way, you prevent flooding and erosion.
It's a much nicer way to deal with all that water instead of just trying to get rid of it. And I love how some articles talked about using those permeable pavers for walkways and driveways. It's so simple, but it makes so much sense.
Exactly. Instead of the rain just rushing off those hard surfaces and flooding the storm drains, permeable pavers let the water soak back into the ground. That means less runoff and more water going back into the water table. Plus, they come in all sorts of styles, so you don't have to sacrifice looks for something that works.
It's a win-win. Okay, so we've talked about handling those heavy downpours that seem to be happening more and more. But what about the opposite? What about those crazy hot summers? It feels like every year is hotter than the last.
That's a good point, and it shows how important it is to pick plants that can take the heat. Think about succulents and cacti. They're like the superheroes of drought tolerance. They love the heat, love the sun.
Right, they just laugh at heat waves.
Yeah,
And they add that cool, modern look to a garden.
for sure. And don't forget about ornamental grasses. They add texture, movement, and they're incredibly tough, even in conditions that would make other plants wilt. A lot of varieties don't need much water and are totally fine with full sun.
Okay, those are great for planting at ground level, but the articles also talked about green roofs and living walls. Those sound super futuristic.
They're becoming more popular, especially in cities where there's not much outdoor space. Imagine whole buildings covered in plants. Green roofs and walls are stunning to look at, but they have so many other benefits too.
Like what? Tell me more.
Well, first of all, they're like natural insulation. They help keep buildings at a comfortable temperature, which saves energy and helps with that whole urban heat island thing. Plus, they clean the air, cut down on noise, and even give birds and insects a place to live.
So it's not just about how it looks, it's about making cities more sustainable and biodiverse. I'm here for it. Okay, so we've covered making gardens eco-friendly, dealing with weird weather, even robots mowing our lawns. Where do those therapeutic gardens fit into all this? It feels kind of separate from everything else.
It might seem that way, but it's all connected. When we make our gardening sustainable and able to handle different weather, we're setting the stage for a space that's actually good for us. When we work with nature using plants and materials that belong in the local environment, our gardens need less work from us. That frees us up to actually enjoy the space.
So it's like we're taking the stress out of gardening so we can actually relax and enjoy being surrounded by nature.
Exactly. And those calming water features we were talking about, they're not just there to look pretty. The sound of water, especially that gentle trickling, has actually been shown to calm our brains down.
That makes sense. I always feel more relaxed when I'm near water, whether it's the ocean, a lake, or even just a fountain.
Totally. And adding in things that appeal to our other senses can make a garden even more therapeutic. Think about plants that smell incredible, like lavender, rosemary, or jasmine. Their scents can make us feel calm, relaxed, or even happier.
So it's like we're designing a garden that's not just visually appealing, but also a treat for all our senses.
Exactly.
Well,
And when we add edible plants to the mix, we get another layer of sensory experience. Imagine stepping outside and picking fresh herbs for dinner or harvesting your own vegetables. It's incredibly grounding and satisfying to have that connection with our food.
it's a full sensory experience that's good for our bodies and souls. I love it. Okay, so we've talked about all these fantastic ways to make our gardens better for the environment, better for our mental health, and even more productive. But let's be real, keeping up with a garden, even one that's low maintenance, still takes some effort. No kidding. Even with the toughest, most drought-tolerant plants out there, there's still weeding and pruning and all that jazz. It can feel like a lot, even when you love gardening.
Oh, absolutely. But that's where those smart, low-maintenance design ideas come in. Remember those articles about using more hardscaping and getting strategic with ground covers?
Right, like swapping out some of the lawn for a sleek stone patio or maybe a gravel garden. Not only does it look modern and stylish, but you also dramatically cut down on how much grass you have to mow.
Exactly. And if you place your hardscaping strategically, you can actually make your outdoor space feel bigger and more inviting.
It's like creating different rooms outside, each with its own purpose and style. I love that. And what about those ground covers? They're like nature's weed control, right?
Yep. Exactly. They spread out horizontally, creating this thick mat that blocks weeds and means you don't have to weed all the time. Plus, they come in so many different textures and colors. You're bound to find some that love your climate and the amount of light you have.
So instead of a boring old lawn that needs constant attention, you've got this interesting mix of low-maintenance plants. You have any favorites?
Oh, so many. For sunny spots, creeping thyme is amazing. It creates this beautiful, fragrant carpet that smells incredible when you walk on
A
it.
treat for the feet and the nose.
Exactly. And for shade, sweet woodruff is a winner. It has these delicate, star-shaped flowers and a sweet hay-like scent.
Those both sound amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got hardscaping, ground covers. What other low-maintenance secrets do you have up your sleeve?
Well, mulching is super simple but makes a huge difference. It helps keep weeds under control, and plus it's great for the soil.
Mulch, it is. It's like a magic blanket for your garden beds. And what about those weed barriers? Are they worth it?
They can be a lifesaver, especially if you're battling some really stubborn weeds. Putting down a layer of landscape fabric before you mulch can seriously cut down on weeding.
Okay, you've convinced me. Less weeding means more time to actually relax and enjoy my beautiful, low-maintenance outdoor space. This has been such an inspiring deep dive. I'm ready to get out there and create my dream garden. How about you?
Me too. It's exciting to see how landscaping is changing to be better for the planet and better for us. It's not just about how things look anymore. It's about creating spaces that work with nature, make us feel good, and bring us joy.
Perfectly said. As we wrap up our deep dive into the future of gardening, I have a question for you. If you could design the ultimate outdoor space just for you, what would it look like? Would you have drought-tolerant plants and smart irrigation, a calming water feature and fragrant herbs, or maybe even a robot quietly taking care of the lawn while you relax nearby? The options are endless. Make sure to check out those articles we talked about for even more inspiration and practical advice. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the gardens of the future.